Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be, in my opinion, quite the interesting one, as we're going to dive into what we could see regarding Nexomon 3, or whatever they're going to name the third one. Now, to give this topic some merit, I should preface that we were given a little teaser at the end of Nexomon Extinction, stating, and I quote, "Thanks for playing our game, we hope to see you again in the sequel." With that being said, this video is going to explore what I and many others would like to see in terms of expansions to gameplay mechanics, and we will also touch upon the new setting of Nexomon 3 and what it could look like. Now, of course, spoiler warning if you haven't beaten Nexomon Extinction yet, as we will be discussing the endgame plot towards the latter half of this video. So if you're cool with that, sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. Okay, so to begin, I do believe Nexomon has a really good foundation, and they could just build on the engine that they already have. Sort of like what we see with Pokemon games, where we have X and Y running on the same core engine as Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, despite being very different games. Now, with that being said, I would like there to be more changes than just the world map and characters, but I don't think by any means they'd have to start again from scratch. So obviously, the first edition anyone could expect are new Nexomon. I'd love to see a wider variety of Nexomon. I love what they did with the dragons. Give me some more dragons. I'd love to see more bugs, stuff like that. Like anything you'd expect in a new monster taming game. But what I'd like to also see is the old Nexomon make an appearance as well, with some type of connectivity between games in the form of some sort of transporter. Now, this is obviously easier said than done for an indie studio especially. I could see it being easier for PC perhaps, but a little more harder when it comes to console versions, especially given generation leaps. Again, this video isn't really what they must have, but rather what I'd personally like to see and what I've seen as a common sentiment within the community. I'm sure a lot of people would want this sort of feature, especially to transfer their cosmics. On the bright side though, Nexomon doesn't feature any EVs or IVs, so we wouldn't have to worry about breeding for perfect stats or any nonsense like that. Even if the game doesn't feature transporting, all you have to do is catch the Nexomon you had in your previous game and the stats are already set up, just level it up a bit. Now, this sort of discussion of having more Nexomon available sort of segues into the next point I wanted to touch on, and that's PvP. With Nexomon truly becoming a staple franchise, I think adding both trades and PvP would go a long way for the success of future titles. I've seen a lot of people in the comment section of my videos mentioning the lack of PvP as the only reason they haven't bought the game just yet. Once again, it is easier said than done, but in a perfect world, having PvP alongside even crossplay would be amazing. Now, this is also a good transition in my next idea, which involves adding some complexity to the battle system. Now, in terms of status effects, I think we're fine. We have a wide variety of them, and I don't think we need to touch that. But I would like to see more complexity regarding the Nexomon themselves. Perhaps adding a ranged or a magic stat, as well as a defensive stat for the same, could go a long way. If you don't know, Nexomon just has HP, defense, attack, and speed. There's no special attack, and there's no special defense. This would help prevent a lot of Nexomon from the same type as feeling sameish, and also keep the integrity of the battle system intact. I'd also like to see them add abilities or traits that also go beyond the restrictions of what we see in, let's say, Pokemon. For example, I could see an interesting ability that, let's say, allows a Nexomon to hold 5 cores instead of 4, or one that makes it so that switching in that particular Nexomon gives it low priority, allowing it to tank a hit before passing over to the next Nexomon. Perhaps the next one's a glass cannon or something, and it gets to come in without taking damage. Stuff like that could really shake things up, and I could definitely see the community taking kindly to it. Also, I'd love to see a wider variety of cores. The core system I think is really cool, and I can imagine so many possibilities given the fact that you can have 4 cores on your Nexomon. Currently, most of the cores are very basic, generally boosting a stat or XP or gold or whatever, but I could see tons of possibilities beyond that. Imagine a core that works like the Rocky Helmet from Pokemon, obviously with a lower percentage of damage, otherwise stacking 4 would be insane, but you guys know what I mean. Or a core that slightly boosts attack speed, or maybe cores that are so powerful that they take up multiple core slots. Like, imagine a core that would allow you to have 5 attacks instead of 4, but that core takes up all 4 core slots. They definitely have to keep balancing in mind, but I think stuff like this, like sort of going beyond what the regular limitations are, you'd never see something like that in Pokemon. That kind of stuff would be really cool. Now, one thing I wanted to touch on, but it doesn't really fit into either section of this video, and that's trainer entrances. So when you enter a battle, it'll usually say, you know, youngster derp wants to fight. I've always found those intros really nice as they make you feel like you're facing someone and not just a wild monster. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, I just wanted to kind of throw it in between here. Okay, so for the rest of this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future that we get to see towards the end of the game, and while I haven't played Nexomon 1 just yet, I wanted to talk about some of the potential implications in place for the sequel given the setting of the future. So once again, be warned, there are spoilers coming. So at the end of the game, Vados is defeated but resurrected, and we know from the epilogue he, alongside the player character, are alive and well. They've both teamed up in an effort to restore peace. The future seems to be a relatively peaceful place, and despite the underworld titans sort of being a loose end, I think the game's sequel and subsequent sequels will need to be written in such a way that they respect the sheer power of Solus and Vados. I really don't want to see the game go the Boruto route where it seems like Naruto was hella nerfed in the sequel, and I think if they want to avoid the escalation issues from plaguing the game, they'll have to shift to more personal obstacles rather than, oh, the world's gonna blow up. If Vados and Solus were dead from like old age or something, then that wouldn't really be an issue, but that's not the case. The problem arises when you think about it. If there's someone trying to destroy the world or something like that, Solus and Vados would be there instantly to do something about it. These are godlike creatures. If they don't, then you're asking yourself, well, where are they? And if they do, they'll either be undermined by the new villain and defeated so that the player character can fight, or some sort of strange plot contrivance needs to happen to prevent them from acting. Usually they'll get tricked or something, and what ends up happening is it makes the character seem stupid. I'd personally much rather see a shift towards more personal obstacles rather than global obstacles. For example, in Pokemon Red and Blue, yeah, Team Rocket's an issue, but they're not about to go destroy the world. Rather, they're criminals doing criminal stuff. I couldn't see basically gods going up against Giovanni just because he's stealing Pokemon. So perhaps I could see the game revolving around stuff like that. Like, you know, the enemy might want to kill you or kill your friends, but he doesn't have to go after the entire world. There could be things in place that make you want to achieve a certain goal without it having to be global destruction. We could also see the future revolving around Nexomon tamers and traveling and perhaps participating in tournaments and stuff, something similar to Pokemon as well. Now, this is sort of a little idea I had, and it's another route they could go, and I think it would be interesting, so I decided to sort of touch on it here. So imagine a scenario where the protagonist from Nexomon Extinction, aka Solus, loses his power. I could imagine this happening a variety of ways, including something to do with the underworld Nexomon, or perhaps a new enemy that has some sort of strange ability to lock Solus into his human form. Your Nexomon would have probably died of old age or been released at this point, so you'd be a tamer, basically, but with no Nexomon. That would give you the reason to start over and sort of pilot the plot from there. Furthermore, we see that all the children of Omnicron do have human forms, and though Vados isn't technically a true Nexomon, it would be interesting to see him get sort of stuck and locked as a human as well. And the game could revolve around you two working together with Vados as your Coco, your companion character. I could imagine having the two characters work together as opposed to being enemies would be quite interesting, and seeing Vados' character development over the past few hundred years would be awesome. If not reduced to a human form, they could reduce him to some other form that prevents him from fighting and allows him to be carried around with you. Now, I could go on about interesting ways they could take the plot all day, but I'm going to extend this to you guys. What would you like to see in Nexomon 3 from both a gameplay and lore perspective? Make sure to let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more monstertainment content. Check out my Patreon where you can watch my videos early and have your name show up here. Also, come join our subscriber Discord because it's awesome down there. And until next time, peace.